You are 6 years old when they come for you. You don't understand why your parents are suddenly so quiet. You don't understand why men in white robes are standing in your home. And you certainly don't understand why everyone keeps telling you that this is an honor. You are being chosen to serve Rome, not as a soldier, not as a queen, as a Vestal Virgin. And for the next 30 years, your entire life will belong to the goddess Vesta. You will live in the heart of Rome. You will be treated with enormous respect. You will have privileges most Roman women could never imagine. But there is one promise you must never break. Because if Rome decides that you have broken it, your life can end in a way almost impossible to imagine. You are about to become one of the most protected and most controlled women in the Roman world. You were taken while you were still a child. Traditionally, girls chosen as Vestals were very young, often around 6 to 10 years old. They were expected to meet strict requirements concerning their family and status. You don't choose this life. Adults choose it for you. You are brought into the service of Vesta, goddess of the hearth. To the Romans, the hearth is not simply a fireplace. It represents the home, the family, and on a larger scale, Rome itself. Your job is therefore far more important than it sounds. You are not merely watching a fire. You are helping maintain one of the religious symbols believed to protect the entire Roman state. There are only a small number of Vestals serving at any one time. You are now one of them, and your childhood is effectively over. Your first lesson is simple. The sacred fire must keep burning. Inside the temple of Vesta, a flame burns continuously. Your responsibility is to help maintain it. If the flame goes out, it isn't treated as an ordinary accident. To Roman religious thinking, the condition of the sacred fire could have consequences for the safety and prosperity of Rome. So you learn to watch it. You learn how to tend it. You learn the rituals. You learn the ceremonies. You learn which objects are sacred and which actions must be performed correctly. The Met notes that Vestals were exceptional among Roman priests because their service lasted at least 30 years, and their duties centered on ensuring that sacred rituals were performed correctly. You are becoming part priestess, part guardian, and part symbol of Rome itself. But there is something else you must learn, something much more personal. You must remain sexually chaste throughout your service, and that vow will control your entire existence. At first, your new life might not sound so terrible. In fact, parts of it sound incredible. As an ordinary Roman woman, your freedom and legal independence could be heavily restricted by the expectations and structures of Roman society. But as a Vestal, you occupy a strange position. You can own property. You can conduct your own financial affairs. You can move through public life with an unusual degree of independence. You are given a place of honor. People respect you. Your presence matters. Your testimony can carry weight. And in certain circumstances, Vestals could even intervene in the fate of condemned prisoners. You are not an ordinary Roman woman anymore. You are something almost outside the normal social order. But there is a price. Your freedom comes with a condition. Your body is dedicated to Vesta. And for 30 years, marriage and sexual relationships are forbidden. 30 years. That means the child taken into the priesthood may spend the years when most people build families serving a goddess instead. The Metropolitan Museum describes the Vestals as powerful priestesses who guarded Vesta's sacred hearth and notes that they had legal independence in conducting their own business. You have more freedom than many women, but one part of your life belongs completely to Rome. Your life is divided into stages. First, you learn. Then you serve. Eventually, you become one of the experienced Vestals responsible for teaching the younger girls. You spend decades performing rituals, maintaining sacred objects, preparing religious materials, and protecting traditions that Romans believe are essential to their civilization. You even help prepare sacred bread used in religious ceremonies. Day after day, year after year, you repeat the rituals. And eventually, 30 years pass. At that point, you are technically free to leave. You can marry. You can live another kind of life. But after spending 3 decades as a Vestal, walking away is not necessarily simple. Ancient writers say that relatively few chose marriage after completing their service. You have spent most of your life being told that you belong to Vesta. Now imagine suddenly trying to become an ordinary Roman woman. For some, the priesthood became a lifelong identity. For others, the thought of leaving may have been frightening. But there is one thing you never forget: the vow. Now imagine someone accuses you of breaking it. Maybe someone claims they saw you with a man. Maybe someone whispers that you have violated your oath. Maybe the accusation is politically motivated. And this is where your privileged life becomes terrifying. Because being a Vestal is not simply a personal religious commitment. Romans believed the purity of the Vestals was connected to the safety of the state. If a Vestal broke her vow, it could be interpreted as an offense not only against Vesta, but against Rome itself. So the accusation cannot simply be ignored. You are investigated, and everyone is watching. The most terrifying part? You don't need to be an ordinary criminal for the consequences to become catastrophic. Your position makes the accusation more serious, because Rome has placed enormous symbolic importance on you. If you are guilty, people fear that the gods themselves have been offended. And now the state has a problem. How can Rome punish a sacred woman? This is where Roman religious logic creates something horrifying. You are considered sacred. That creates a problem. A Vestal cannot simply be executed in the normal way. According to ancient accounts, the solution was to remove her sacred status and confine her underground. The punishment traditionally described for a Vestal convicted of breaking her vow of chastity was being buried alive. But there is an important detail. The Romans did not simply throw her into an open grave. Instead, she was taken to a specially prepared underground chamber near the Porticalina. The chamber was supplied with basic provisions: food, water, other necessities, enough that Roman authorities could claim they had not directly starved a sacred woman to death. Then the entrance was sealed, and you were left underground. The horror isn't simply the punishment. It is the contradiction. Rome has spent your entire life telling you that you are sacred, and now Rome is using that same sacred status to justify your isolation. Ancient writer Plutarch describes the punishment of a Vestal who broke her vow as being buried alive near the Colline Gate. Now the story becomes even darker. Imagine being accused of something you didn't do. Imagine knowing that the punishment is death. And imagine that the people judging you are not simply deciding whether you committed an ordinary crime. They believe Rome's relationship with the gods is at stake. This is why accusations against Vestals could become major public events. Sometimes the evidence was uncertain. Sometimes political circumstances mattered. Sometimes the accused Vestal was defended. And sometimes the charges ended in disaster. The ancient sources preserve stories of Vestals accused of breaking their vows. But those accounts were written long after some of the events and must be treated carefully. History doesn't give us a perfect record of what actually happened in every case. But the fear was real. The punishment was real. And the institution survived for centuries. This is what makes your life as a Vestal so strange. You are not a slave. You are not a powerless peasant. You are not hidden away from society. You can have privileges. You can possess wealth. You can travel. You can appear in public. People may stand aside when you pass. You can be treated with extraordinary respect. Yet your personal life is governed by a vow imposed on you when you were still a child. You are given independence, but only inside boundaries created by Rome. You are honored because Rome needs you, and you are feared because Rome believes its own survival may depend on you. Your greatest privilege and your greatest danger come from exactly the same thing. You are sacred. And then there is the fire. Imagine entering the temple one morning. You look toward the hearth, and the flame is gone. For a moment, everything stops. You know what that means. You know that people will ask questions. Who was responsible? Who was watching? What went wrong? Ancient Romans took ritual mistakes seriously, and a Vestal could be punished for failures in her duties. But this is important. The famous death penalty was specifically associated with violating the vow of chastity, not simply with every accidental mistake involving the sacred fire. A Vestal who committed a lesser offense could face disciplinary punishment from the chief priest. The ancient sources describe severe punishments even for lesser failures. So you learn to live with constant responsibility, not because someone is standing beside you every second, but because you know what your mistakes could mean. Now imagine reaching the end. You are no longer 6. You are an adult, then middle-aged, Perhaps you have spent your entire adult life inside this religious world. You have watched younger girls arrive. You have taught them the same rituals you once learned. You have seen Rome change around you. Generations of Romans have come and gone. Wars have been fought. Emperors have risen. Emperors have died. And still, your fire burns. For 30 years, you have protected it. For 30 years, you have protected your vow. And now you are finally free. You could leave. You could marry. You could build another life. But the question remains, after giving Rome 30 years, who are you without Rome? For centuries, the Vestals remained an important part of Roman religious life. Their institution survived kings, republicans, civil wars, emperors, and political upheavals. But eventually, Rome changed. The empire became increasingly Christian. Traditional pagan institutions lost their power. By the late 4th century, the old religious system was being dismantled. The sacred fire of Vesta was eventually extinguished, and the order of the Vestals disappeared. The women who had guarded Rome's sacred flame for centuries were gone. The temple fell silent, and the fire that had symbolized the continuity of Rome was no longer burning. So when you hear the words Vestal Virgin, don't imagine simply a woman who was forbidden to marry. You were part of something much larger. You were a living symbol of Rome. Your body represented purity. Your fire represented continuity. Your rituals represented the relationship between Rome and its gods. And your punishment existed because the Romans believed your failure could endanger the entire state. That is why your life was so strange. You could walk through Rome with privileges that ordinary women could only dream of. You could possess property. You could participate in public religious life. You could be treated with enormous respect. But beneath all of it was one terrifying reality. The same society that elevated you could destroy you. You were honored because Rome needed you. You were protected because you were sacred. And if Rome decided you had betrayed your vow, that protection could become a prison. You were chosen as a child. You gave 30 years to a goddess. You guarded a flame that Romans believed protected their civilization. And for 30 years, you lived knowing that one accusation could turn the most honored religious position in Rome into a death sentence beneath the earth. That was your life as a Roman Vestal Virgin.